We are now less than 3 weeks away from the arrival of the highly anticipated Star of the Seas, so here's everything you need to know before you go on board. And before we get started, if you do want early footage and early looks at Star of the Seas, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, as we will have not only the maiden arrival into Port Canaveral here in just a few weeks, but also a ship tour as well. So lots and lots of Star of the Seas content coming here for you pretty soon. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So Star of the Seas, of course, some of you may know, is the second ship in the Icon class. The Icon class is, of course, the world's largest cruise ships. In the past, Royal Caribbean had built, for example, the Oasis class. Each one was incrementally larger than the other. This doesn't seem to be the case here, at least right now, but pretty much identical to her sister ship, the Icon of the Seas. That came out last year in 2024. Star of the Seas is, again, the world's largest cruise ship at just shy of 250,000 tons. With a max capacity of about 7,600 passengers at max capacity, but double occupancy is around 5,600. So not often you'll get all 7,000 on there, but she can hold up to that many. But there also is 2,300 crew member to go along with that. One of the main differences that we have here with Star of the Seas versus her sister Icon is going to be the fact that she is going to be based here in Port Canaveral, Florida, here on the Space Coast. She will offer similar itineraries, going Eastern and Western Caribbean itineraries for 7-day cruises. She'll be visiting places like Cozumel, Costa Maya, Coco Cay, the private island for Royal Caribbean, and going as far down as St. Thomas and St. Martin for some of her Eastern Caribbean itineraries. One of the most important things you'll have to know about Star of the Seas is not only that is she the largest ship in the world, but she's one of the most technologically advanced cruise ships in the world. And Royal Caribbean has done a good job of course, getting their passengers accustomed to this, but one of the things that you will need to know, and your best friend on Star of the Seas, is going to be the Royal Caribbean app. If you don't already have the Royal Caribbean app installed on your phone, definitely be sure to do that. Even go ahead and pause the video and do that real quick, because it is going to be your best friend. You're going to be doing everything from booking shore excursions to checking in for the cruise itself via the Royal Caribbean app. You can, of course, do all of that online, but once you're on board the ship, it's going to become a lot more difficult, although not impossible, and we'll get to that in just a moment. And one of the biggest recommendations I have for Star of the Seas, and this applies across the fleet as well, but via the app or even online, book your shore excursions, your internet packages, your dining packages. If you plan on purchasing anything on the ship, definitely try to do it ahead of time, with the exception of the gift shop, of course. If you want to book the internet, you're going to save close to 20% on the internet package alone if you book before the cruise online rather than booking while you're on the ship itself. Same goes for the dining packages and things like that, and even shore excursions. For example, I am sailing on Utopia of the Seas pretty soon, and I actually saved 50% on my Hideaway Beach adults only area tickets in Coco Cay. I saved 50%. I paid $45 rather than $90 by booking through the app. The app doesn't just apply to things where you purchase ahead of time, but also make reservations for even the free activities such as the Aquadome, the Aqua Theater show, or even the ice skating show down in Absolute Zero. So via the app, once you've checked in for your cruise on board Star of the Seas, you'll start to be able to make reservations for things like the Aquadome show, Absolute Zero, even the comedy shows, you'll be able to do that on the app. Now, those are a little bit tricky because sometimes they'll just show completely sold out. And if that's the case, don't worry, don't panic. It's not like you're going to miss out on the show. Once you check in and once you're on board the ship itself, you'll be able to go back into the app and make reservations again. So sometimes they close it a little early, or sometimes the system's just a little finicky. But if you don't get your reservations for something as, highly anticipated as the Aqua Theater show, don't worry about it. You'll be able to make reservations again once you're on board. So again, the app is going to be your best friend. But now moving away from the app now into the actual ship itself and the experiences, Star of the Seas combined has over 40 bars and restaurants on board. Some of them are paid, some of them are complimentary, a lot of them are complimentary. The nice part about Star of the Seas is that there is a whole list of specialty dining restaurants. They're all fantastic and they do come at a price. So despite the long list of all the restaurants that are on board Star of the Seas that you would have to pay to eat at, there are plenty of places to eat for free on board the ship as well. Some of the free restaurants are, of course, the obvious ones being the main dining room and the Windjammer Buffet, but you also have the Aquadome Market, which is a hidden gem on the Icon class. It's kind of tucked away onto the side of the Aquadome itself. Lots of great food in there, lots of options as well. You'll also have places like El Loco Fresh, which is one of my personal favorites. It's a Mexican-themed buffet, found up usually by the pool decks. You also have the Park Cafe, which is an Oasis class favorite that has made its way over to the Icon class as well. You also have Sorrento's Pizza, need I say more, free pizza. And at least in my opinion, I think it's some of the best pizza at sea. We also have the Surfside Eatery, which is a mini buffet that's kid-friendly that's found on Surfside, which is the boardwalk-style area, if you're more familiar with the Oasis class. And there's also Surfside Bites, which is separated. Surfside Bites is more of like a snack stand where you'll find things like popcorn chicken, french fries, churros, whereas you'll actually find like actual buffet-type food inside Surfside Eatery. But they're basically right next to each other, so if you find one, you'll find the other. Then base camp is up by, I guess, Thrill Island up on the pool deck. It's actually right below the basketball court. The basketball court is actually elevated off of the actual deck itself. It's really interesting how they did it. But base camp sits right underneath it. But base camp is like a hybrid version because some of the options in base camp are free and then there's some that are paid to eat. And with the mention of the paid to eat, let's go ahead and transition into our specialty restaurants we'll find here on board the Star of the Seas. First off, being Pier 7 is not coming over from Icon of the Seas. That's going to be one of the few differences between the two ships. It's very weird because they did announce that Pier 7 is not going to make its way over to Surfside and Star, but they also did not announce what's going to replace it. So even with 3 weeks to go before the maiden voyage, we still don't know yet. But anyways, there is likely going to be a specialty dining option in that back area of Surfside, so keep that in mind. Izumi Hibachi, can never go wrong with hibachi. Basically the Japanese style food that they make in front of you, always a really fun show to see and always very great food as well. Attached to Izumi Hibachi is also Izumi in the Park, made its debut on Icon last year and Utopia. It's a little to-go window. One of my personal favorites from there is the karaage chicken. They also have some ice cream and dessert options there as well. Hooked Seafood, found up in the Aquadome, is the seafood restaurant. And then Giovanni's Italian is, of course, the Italian restaurant that's found down on the upper level of the Royal Promenade. A few other Royal Caribbean favorites like Playmakers and Chops Grill are going to make their way over to Star of the Seas as well. Chops Grill is, of course, the specialty steakhouse on board. And I guess an honorable mention is Deserted, which will be up in Thrill Island over by Base Camp. That's a dessert shack, basically, but it is paid to go to, so I'll include it in this as well. It's not really a restaurant, but it is a place you do have to pay to eat. It's just dessert. So now that we're hungry, let's go ahead and hop into the thrills that we're going to find here on board the Star of the Seas. Splashaway Bay is, of course, the kids-friendly water park area found on Surfside. That's not really thrilling, but what is thrilling is the Category 6 water park, the largest water park at sea. 6 insane water slides, 2 raft slides, 2 racers, and then 2 just like regular body slides. It's definitely one of the must-do activities here on board Star of the Seas. Another thrill that you're going to find on board Star of the Seas is Crown's Edge. This one you do have to pay for. I'm not thrilled about it, but it is pretty cool though. It is calmed down in price to a nice $35, but again, going back to the app, I did see that you are going to save close to almost 20% if you book the Crown's Edge through the app or the website before you get on board the ship. So again, going back to the app and the website, book your stuff ahead of time. A staple to the Royal Caribbean fleet at this point, Flow Rider made its big debut on the used to be world's largest ship at the time, the Freedom of the Seas, back in 2006 and 2007, and is still continued to go on all of the new ships here with Royal Caribbean, and is still continuing on with the Icon class. It is free, but you can purchase for roughly about $70. You can get a private lesson, so that you do have to pay for, but just a regular ride on the Flow Rider is free of charge. As I mentioned earlier, there is a basketball court on board. It is elevated up right above base camp, which is really neat because it's literally only the basketball court that's up there. You walk up a set of stairs and it's right there. It also doubles as a pickleball court as well. So if you're into pickleball, then definitely check that out as well. They usually will do pickleball in the morning and then they'll take all the netting down and do basketball in the afternoons. Found in Thrill Island, we also have a mini golf course and even a rock climbing wall. And some things that I feel like do get overlooked pretty frequently is the laser tag and escape room that we're going to find on board as well. That's enough thrills for today, so let's go ahead and chill at the Swim and Tonic Bar, one of 2 swim-up bars at sea. It's basically an Icon class exclusive, so that's why there's only 2 of them, Icon and Star. And of course, all the future sister ships, including Legend, will feature this as well, so keep that in mind for our future ships. So, swim-up bar, but there's also 7 pools throughout the ship as well. And if you want to grab a drink at Lime and Coconut, you can hang out at the Cloud 17 Infinity Pool up on Deck 17. Hideaway is the adults only area found all the way in the back of the ship, so you behind all the Thrill Island stuff. Again, adults only area, so it is going to be nice and quiet, at least for the most part. You're not going to have kids running around and all that. The coolest thing, at least to me, is that they have a infinity pool that's suspended 10 decks above Surfside. So basically nothing between you and Surfside, basically, when you're in this infinity pool, which I thought is really cool. It also features some stadium-style and tiered seating. That way you can kind of still get a good look out at the ocean, even if you're a few rows back from the ledge. You also have the Hideaway bar as well. Adults only area. Can't really go without a bar, so only makes sense. And then one of the favorites on the Icon, and one of my personal favorites as well, is the Overlook Lounge found within the Aquadome. 270-degree views. Also home to the Rye and Bean Bar if you want to grab yourself an espresso martini and enjoy the views. And also just the regular Aquadome bar is going to be found there as well. So now we'll move on to the entertainment you'll find on board Icon of the Seas. You'll find things like your typical comedy shows, all of that, but we'll also feature things like Back to the Future, the musical, which is something that I'm most looking forward to, is seeing that. That will be incredible. We also have Torque, which is the Aquadome show, if you're familiar with the Oasis class and the Aqua Theater shows. It's very similar to that, just up front at the top and enclosed within the dome. And Soul will be the name of the ice show down in Absolute Zero, right below the Surfside area. That is, again, the ice skating show. Biggest thing with the shows as well is, like I mentioned earlier, going through the app, if you miss the openings for the reservations ahead of time, check back as soon as you get on board, check the app. You'll be able to go in and make some reservations again. And if you still miss that or you don't have the app, you will probably have to go to the box office, at least to those specific areas, to try to make reservations there. But again, that's going to be a lot more difficult, at least in my opinion, than just going into the app and trying to reserve there. And another thing, going back to the app real quick, because it just now came to mind as I'm making this video, but that also serves as your boarding pass. Of course, you can just print it out traditionally like you would in the past, print it out on a piece of paper, scan it at the port, does the exact same thing. But if you don't want to carry on a piece of paper, lose the paper, it's going to be on your phone on the app. You're going to have your boarding pass and your barcode right there as well. And that boarding pass and that barcode are going to be very important on boarding day, as that's your ticket on board the ship, but as well as you're not going to go to your room right away on the ship. The rooms won't be ready right away, and that's where your keys are going to be when you get to the ship. Your keys to the room will be sitting outside your room. So your barcode, say if you want to purchase yourself a drink, make any reservations or anything like that, the crew members are always going to be looking for your barcode, especially for the muster drills. They're going to be looking for that barcode on your boarding pass. But moving back into the entertainment, now we're looking at some of the nightlife that we'll find here on board Star of the Seas. We have the dueling pianos, which originally made its debut on the Icon and was a huge hit. Basically, two pianists going at it with the two pianos playing back and forth and all of that. It's a really fun atmosphere. And so definitely check that out. I highly recommend it. We also have Lou's Jazz and Blues if you're looking for more of a laid-back vibe. Just a nice laid-back jazz lounge that we'll find on Central Park, which I feel like is a very fitting location. And if you're looking for more something upbeat, Music Hall is probably the place for you. Big dance floor and a lot of live music. Basically, is going to serve as probably the nightclub here on board Star. That's not quite everything, but of course, those are all the heavy hitters that we're going to find here on board Star of the Seas. She is a massive ship, of course, the largest in the world. But let me know what you're most excited for down in the comments below, and let me know if you're sailing on Star of the Seas. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you don't already, definitely subscribe if you want all sorts of early content, early footage of Star of the Seas, including a ship tour and some of the maiden arrival footage into Port Canaveral. Definitely check that out, as it's going to be coming out within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's guide to Star of the Seas. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.